this disaster at the border is likely to be the immigration legacy of the Trump administration, 1 million more illegal settlers. So she's been putting out information all about the estimated numbers of 1.5 million coming in over the next year. So now that Jessica Vaughn is piling on, and she was one of the biggest supporters of Trump during the campaign from the immigration hardliners, she's getting pissed off. So when I start to see people like that, and then Mark Krikorian, who is like the numbers cruncher at Center for Immigration Studies, and all the people from that community, I'm like, okay, there's something going on. And they're calling him out constantly now, saying, stop talking and do something. You know,
well, I mean, how much longer can people
going to do something?
How much longer can people call him out for and say, just do something?
You know, yesterday, the day before, he says, you know, if Mexico doesn't do something about the 20,000 caravan, the 20,000 caravan is nothing. We just dumped 24, our own government dumped 24,000 illegal into Texas in the last 2 weeks.
Right.
There's rumors of this 20,000 person caravan coming up through Mexico's southern border. And he's sitting there saying, if Mexico doesn't do something, I'm going to close our border. Send 100,000 armed troops to the border, and have a shoot to kill order, leaflet drop the people and warn them. Like, what is your problem? Like,
that's how I feel about it.
Are you in bed with George Soros? I mean, the $80 to $320 million that he gave you for your Trump Chicago project, that he forgave that loan, and the money that Jared Kushner's taken for, are you in bed with him? Is that why George Soros has representation in the White House and during Kushner's counsel? Because nothing else explains it at this point. Because you're just talking out of your fat ass. And if you're compromised and they control you now, then just go in the bathroom and hang yourself. Like, get it over with, dude. This is ridiculous at this point. And he comes out today, and now today he says, you know, I ordered the stop funding to Nicaragua and Honduras and El Salvador. You said this 6 months ago. We're in a reality show loop. Since then, you authorized $10.6 billion in payments to Mexico and those countries for aid. I saw, I think, another 15 to 16 billion in the new spending bill that was signed. So you're kidding yourself. And I've seen Jessica Vaughn and Ann Coulter and others who are tracking him on this, calling him out on other things, saying, well, that's really great. You said that on a particular thing, but it's not true. There's no actual order. Did he sign an actual order to cut off funding to these countries? To stop payments? He said he was going to do this 6 months ago, and he never actually followed through and did it. So I don't know if he's just in, you know, some intelligence agency echo chamber they put him into, where he just sits there and talks and thinks that the things that he says are getting done, or he's trying to lie to his supporters, or they've got him in some MK Ultra mind control program, or they're drugging him. I mean, I don't know what's going on, but it's frustrating to see this because he's just talking out of his ass. He's just farting out of his mouth right now. I don't understand.
I know.
And every time he says something now, I just sit there and say, prove it. Like, what are you doing? Our border is being invaded. And, you know, I was talking to some regular sort of mainstream conservatives say, oh, no, you can't do that. And I said, in the PC world we live in, I'm like, we gave, $36 billion to Israel over the next 10 years. We're lobbing bombs back and forth at each other again. Why can't we? Why can't we put our troops on the border and say, if you come here, we'll kill you? Why can't we shoot tomahawks at the cartel? Why can't we drone strike them? They're helping with an invasion of our country. I mean, how much plainer does this have to be? I mean, Trump declared a national emergency. Is it an emergency or is it not an emergency? So now there's this quid pro quo horse trading going on. So if Giuliani has an 87-page report which we joked about one day when they come out with the report, I remember we talked about it. We said, who's really going to care or believe anything anyway? But if he has an 87-page report that documents crimes committed by Mueller during the investigation, what is this? If you try to put out facts that tarnish Trump in your report, then we're going to release the report on your crimes? Why isn't that report being released? If you have a report on crimes that Mueller committed during the investigation, that should be released today. What the fuck is this horse trading, and why are you talking about it openly on television?
Yeah, we don't actually care about any of this stuff. What we care about is that actually you're sitting here about to make fun of us. So don't do it, because if you do, we're going to release something that the American people should have no matter what. Since we own this, you know what I'm saying? The government isn't theirs, it's ours.
Yeah, exactly. And it's sitting there on television. The president's attorney is sitting
Drunk attorney.
there. Yeah, drunk is saying, if you tattle on us, we'll tattle on you. So you're saying if you don't write bad things about Trump in your 900-page report, we won't release our 87-page report on all of your crimes. That's like illegal right there. That's like trying to blackmail people on live television. I mean, and saying to the American people, well, there's bad facts on Trump you'll never find out, and there's crimes committed by Mueller you'll never find out, as long as both of us don't tell on each other. I couldn't believe it. And then I see the comments in the articles. It's like, look at Giuliani. I'm like, come on, American people. How stupid are you? How did you not just see the same thing that I saw, which was his lawyer on TV telling them they're all going to lie to us and they're all going to cover up each other? That's what he said. What do you mean you don't know how they're not in prison? Your boss, who hired you to be his private attorney, is President Donald Trump. President Donald Trump is the head of the executive branch. He controls the DOJ and the FBI. You're asking why these people aren't in jail? Well, ask your boss why they're not in jail. And the president has access to every level of classified material. He can read this stuff and go, hey, Barr, come here for a second. Is this illegal? This guy said this in this testimony. He said this over here, and then he said this to you guys. Is that a lie? I want us to arrest the guy. I mean, so why are you on TV asking why these guys aren't arrested? It's mind-blowing. And Barr's saying he's going to release the report by mid-April. Oh, yeah, he'll probably release it on tax day when nobody's paying attention.
Right.
My guess is it's going to be worthless. And now we're playing this whole game where, like I said, they're going to go with a special prosecutor. I predicted that a week ago. It's going to happen. And they're going to go, oh, now we're investigating the other side, because Giuliani, at the end of the interview today, what did he say? Over the next 6 months or so, while we're investigating them, I guarantee we're going to find some crimes. You don't have them already? That's what he said. He goes, over the next 6 months, we're going to investigate them now, and I'm sure we're going to find some crimes. He goes, like perjuring themselves. What happened to the treason? If your narrative is true,
right,
and the CIA and the FBI and the DOJ
and
were running
campaign.
Yeah, we're running.
Don't leave them out.
Yeah, we're running black ops at the direction of John Brennan through Barack Obama. That we're running black ops on a presidential candidate to frame him, and running black ops during his transition period, and running black ops when he was president for a coup. What are you talking about? Arresting them for perjuring themselves to Congress. Everyone knows you get a slap on the wrist for that if you're politically connected.
And the president has a tweet for us. He says, Mexico is doing nothing to help stop the flow of illegal immigrants to our country. They are all talk and no action. That's really interesting. Interesting concept there. Likewise, Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador have taken our money for years and do nothing. The Dems don't care. Such bad laws may close the southern border. Now, there's really a lot to pick apart here. I mean, sentence by sentence, Mexico's doing nothing to stop the flow of illegal immigrants. Well, maybe you should do something to stop the flow of illegal immigrants. Why is it Mexico's responsibility to do that? Why would Mexico do that anyway? There's no incentive for them to do that. Mexico just dumps their bad people into our country. America's a dumping ground for Mexico. And the best part about it is, not only do they send their worst, poorest, their biggest criminals over to America, but moreover, the people that they do send here who are somewhat decent, the people come here, they work, and then they send remittances back to Mexico. So they send over some workers, some laborers, and all throughout their stay in America, they'll be sending money back to Mexico. And that money will be spent in Mexico. And that money will go into the Mexican economy. And then when they're done working, in a lot of cases, then they come back to Mexico. A lot of times they'll just come over, they'll work for 10 or so many years, or they'll come for a needed medical treatment, or they'll come to bring their children to school in the American public school system, and then they go back. So why would Mexico want to stop that? Why would Mexico want to, in any way, stem the tide of immigrants pouring into America. There's no reason for them to do it. The task of protecting America's borders is the job of the American president, not the Mexican president. Mexico is going to protect their interests, their people. So sure, even if we work something out, even if there was some kind of understanding or agreement, where does the buck stop? Is it with Mexico? I don't know if that excuse will really fly in 2020. Well, Mexico wouldn't stop their immigrants from coming. That's kind of why we elected you to build a wall, isn't it? So that's number one. And it's so clean, all these different, it's just excuse after excuse. And what does he say next? They're all talk and no action. Yeah, again, very interesting there, right? Where's the action on our part? He says, likewise, Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador have taken our money for years and do nothing. We give them the money. Do you remember in the last government shutdown, I think it was around September or something, it was right around the midterm election, we actually greenlit more foreign aid for these Central American countries. Well, this was money that was greenlit under a Republican House and Senate and Republican president. That there was hundreds of millions of dollars given to all these countries when they were doing the same exact thing when we have like 3 caravans coming through in September, October, and November. And I don't know if anybody remembers that, but it's not really fair. I don't think that's really... Does he think he can just kind of get one over on us by blaming these countries and saying, well, they're not stopping, but they get money anyway? Maybe stop giving them the money then? I mean, you're kind of like the president, right? And up until recently, we did control both chambers of Congress. So remember, I mean, that was passed under a Republican House of Representatives. The excuse that is used now is, oh, well, the Democrats control the House. Well, that wasn't the case when the money was allocated back during the fall, when the migrant caravans were coming in. So that's pretty absurd. He says the Dems don't care, bad laws. I may close the southern border. Yeah, you think? Maybe it's time to, actually close the southern border by any means necessary? Doesn't seem to be happening. NBC News reports then this afternoon that the Trump administration is asking Congress for sweeping authority to deport unaccompanied migrant children. Well, finally. Finally, he is asking about doing something about this. It's about time. Am I right? Am I right? Immigrants pouring into the country. They're being detained. It's worse ever since George W. Bush. But finally, we have a president who's going to ask permission if he can stand up and do something about it. I don't know how people can defend this administration, but after the funding bill, I mean, he created this crisis. Previous crises, we could say that, well, Congress wouldn't pass something. But this present crisis is a direct result of the funding bill that the president signed. The president could have vetoed that. He didn't have to sign it. And that was the watershed moment. That was the crossing of the Rubicon when he said, I'm willing to be personally complicit in what's happening. Before you could say, well, he's fighting and he's holding back these adverse forces on immigration, but then he just gave up with the funding bill, and then he just gave up with the State of the Union, and he gave up with all this other stuff. And I don't know how people defend it anymore. They say, well, he's our only guy. He's our only hope. And, he's doing a lot of great things like tax cuts and all the rest. That's just not good enough. Sorry. You're the president of the United States when the next administration comes in and they decide to pursue all anti-immigration people on RICO charges or something else like that. I mean, that's what we're up against. We're up against people who want 5 million immigrants a year, basically. And so I don't understand how anybody can still stick around and defend this guy when that's all that is being done here. Send in the military, send in the National Guard. I don't know what can be done, but things take time and you have to be patient. No, I was saying that maybe months ago. I was saying that maybe 3 or 4 months ago, but then your patience runs out. Then the reality of timing sets in. I was willing to be patient for 2 years. And then after 2.5 years, we signed the funding bill, right? And nobody was tying his hands on that one. He could have vetoed that. The number one issue that he ran on was building the wall, stopping illegal immigration, deporting illegals, maybe cutting legal immigration. Now, this is according to Breitbart, they're projecting that the Trump administration is going to bring in 1.5 million illegal immigrants in 2019, which happens to be more than every year of Barack Obama's presidency. So not one single year did Barack Obama have 1.5 million illegals. Trump is bringing them in year 2 of the administration. I mean, that is just that. I don't know what other figure you need. I don't know what else you need to say that this has been an abject failure. The promise was we were going to deport 20 million illegals. I mean, I understood that maybe that wasn't practical. That probably wasn't going to happen. But remember, that was the promise. He said we're going to deport 20 million illegals. So you would expect at the very least that we would have less illegals in the country than when we got started.